For today's video, I'm going to go over my thought process and how I went about figuring out the win condition for my team. Looking for a win condition is sometimes about enabling the best person on your team or sometimes about disabling the person on the enemy team who's doing the most. If you notice you have a flyer like Storm or Human Torch doing a lot of work, but the enemy Hela is there trying to counter them, one of the ways you can help enable them, for instance, is by picking a dive tank and keeping that Hela or that hit scan busy so that way your flyers can get more value. Another thing that can be done is if you notice one person on the enemy team is doing far better than the rest of their team, you can pick a hero that's really good at marking them and shutting them down. In this game, I started on Psylocke, but I switched to Rocket when I noticed that my supports were having a difficult time staying alive. And while I would have loved to stay Psylocke for the rest of the game, it was very clear to me that one of the people on support was clearly failing to support, so it was best to have someone who's more familiar with that role take it over. So that being said, I'm going to show you the first round and show you how I went about figuring out what it was that my team needed in order to win. Now let's just jump into it. After covering that left side, I saw the Daredevil go to the route that I normally like to take in order to flank. Instead of being distracted by what's happening at the front line, I'm trying to keep an eye on where Daredevil is going to approach from and try and let my team know that he's about to flank them. And during this time, I'm telling my team that's what's about to happen, but unfortunately they weren't able to react to it soon enough. I'm more interested in shutting down his flank than I am in actually trying to secure kills myself. Because on defense, if we lose this fight, they immediately take that first corner. Because of the way that Convoy works, it's more beneficial for the offensive team to take risks than it is for the defensive team. So I'm more interested in trying to keep an eye on this Daredevil. And even though I was letting my team know what was about to happen, they didn't quite make adjustments fast enough in order to counter him. And there you saw that even though I was prepared for him and ready to try and shut him down, it didn't matter because he was still able to pick off one of my supports in the meantime. And even though Daredevil traded, this works out in the enemy team's favor better than it does our team, because us being down a support means that they can apply a lot more pressure than we can. And Daredevil's spawn is a lot closer than our defensive spawn is. So now all I'm going to try and do is try and help my team hold space as much as possible while we wait by time for our teammates to come back. Unfortunately, because my teammates ended up dying, they ended up staggering themselves before our Loki could get back in time. This will cause us to give up a lot more space in return, and I have to play a lot more defensively again. Here in this moment, it was really unfortunate that Daredevil was able to pick off Loki before our Luna ulted. So even though we have Luna all going, it puts us at a huge disadvantage being down a person. This is the second time that Daredevil has gone in and was able to pick off one of my supports. Even though I was able to see him and I was able to shoot him before he engaged, it didn't matter. This is also one of the big reasons why Daredevil gets banned a lot, is because even when you know he's coming, it doesn't feel like there's a lot you can do once he already starts attacking one of your supports. We were able to get some picks, but it really wasn't enough as Ultron was able to secure a kill on me. With us being down a support, it meant that I probably should have gotten out a lot sooner or played around cover. Seeing that the fight was lost and my team was respawning, I opted just to go back to the second spawn rather than stay in that first one and risk staggering myself more. With the enemy team ulting, I opted to stay closer to my team to stay alive through with the Luna ult, but also try and apply pressure to see if we can't secure a kill as the rest of the team was still far back on the convoy. Luckily, we were able to live through the Storm ult and we were able to secure a pick on Daredevil. Seeing that my team then had the advantage, I opted to use my ultimate to try and continue the staggers and secure the team fight. This forces the enemy to back up completely and regroup with their team. Hearing Daredevil ult and them starting to play a lot more aggressive, I backed up to try and play safe with my team and regroup with them, and then turn on the Daredevil when it was safer. Instead of attacking the Daredevil head on near his teammates, I baited him back towards my team and took a smarter fight where all of us are grouped up and I'm out of the LOS of the other enemies. This made for easy cleanup on the Daredevil. As the enemy Rocket starts ulting and Mr. Fantastic is taking a lot of the aggro, I turn to destroy the amplifiers and the nests. I see people talk about how high Penny's win rate is, about how even in Celestial and above it's still 60% or higher, but for me personally, on my account, I have a 60% win rate against Penny. And I believe a lot of this is due to the fact that I am always the one usually paying attention to the nests and destroying them myself, as well as finding her traps and disabling them. Knowing that Daredevil was doing a lot of work, anytime he starts to push up and play aggressive, I'm usually trying to mark him. I'm always trying to shut him down and keep him from doing what he's been doing at the start of this game. And upon hearing Storm ult, unfortunately our supports had double ulted, which is really bad for us in this position. Still, we want to try and hold it down for as long as possible and hopefully build up other ultimates. Here in my Venom ult, I decided to dash in there and use my ultimate to follow up on it to try and help secure some kills. I was able to get one, unfortunately they were able to res from it. Also during that time, you saw me marking the Daredevil once again. Anytime I see heroes like Daredevil, Wolverine, Iron Fist, Spidey, these are heroes a lot of times that I'm trying to mark as a DPS. The better of a job I do at marking them, the easier time my backline has at staying alive and healing the rest of my team. And on defense, it's very crucial that my backline is not busy healing each other and help the tanks in the front line keep the convoy from moving anywhere. So even if I don't necessarily get kills, as long as I can shut down their enemy divers and keep them from harassing my backline, hopefully this brings enough value by helping my backline so my backline can help my front line at keeping the convoy in place. Once I heard the enemy rocket use his ult, I put myself in a good position to apply pressure and destroy the amplifier quickly, and I immediately go back to trying to harass their Daredevil and their Storm. I rotate towards the Storm side to apply pressure to her, but she ends up leaving as I come across. Here, once again, our Loki ends up falling to the Daredevil, and our Luna ults after he dies. Us being down, it makes it very difficult now to try and flip the fight, as the enemy Ultron is ulting as well. Us being down as support will put us at a huge disadvantage. Our Luna unfortunately didn't back up out of the fight fast enough after her ult had ended, which led to her dying, and then Daredevil just sort of cleaning up the fight as there's no more supports left over. I'll admit that I don't have as much time fighting against Daredevils because of how frequently he's been banned, so when I go up against him, I'm still not sure as to what the best approach is to try and duel him. But I end up falling, and as Luna dies and our other supporters on the way back, we're just going to end up losing this point. As my team is respawning and regrouping, I'm using this as an opportunity to break away these walls, so that way I have more options to escapes and more options to move around. During this downtime, I'm still trying to find ways in which I can bring value to my team. And since odds are we're going to have to fight underneath this bridge, I really want these areas open for my team.
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
Farewell.
As Storm uses her ultimate and Daredevil attacks at the same time, they end up picking off our supports one after another. With our supports being staggered like this, it's really unfortunate as the enemy team is going to be able to push up this convoy for free. Seeing the Daredevil ult and I had my ult, I wanted to shut him down as soon as I could because he's been destroying my backline all game. Unfortunately, even though my ult killed him, it doesn't really matter as the enemy team secured a lot of kills in that time. This puts us at a huge disadvantage, and now there's no real way to try and defend this last point.
Firepower!
A nice deep freeze.
Bring on the chaos!
It's the grand finale.
Luna had ulted to try and buy time for our team, but unfortunately because we weren't there to help out, we weren't able to use her ultimate to try and secure kills. So all it was realistically doing is just buying us a little bit of time, but ultimately the enemy team is going to cap this objective. Because after the Luna ult runs out, they continue to stagger us one after another because of the fact that we're all dying at different times. I hop back onto the point thinking I needed to contest it and I didn't see Captain America there, so maybe I didn't need to hop back onto the objective right away, but ultimately I don't think it really mattered too much. And that's the end of the first round. Now I think a big problem that people have is by default they're going to look at the scoreboard, they're going to look on their team to see who's been struggling the most. In this scenario, a team might hit tab and look at Mr. Fantastic and think that because Mr. Fantastic is not a high tier character and that he's 8 and 9, that maybe it's the Mr. Fantastic's fault. But if you were paying attention up until now, you'll have noticed that a lot of the times the reason why the enemy team was able to push is because of the fact that the Daredevil was securing a pick on one of the supports, to where even if he traded, he was still providing a lot of value for the rest of his team. And if you look at the enemy team, there's one thing that stands out more than the rest, and that is that even though that Daredevil is securing kills, he's also making a lot more mistakes than the rest of his team. Despite how good the enemy team has been doing, he has been struggling the most. He has been dying the most. So at this point, I offered to switch with Deus because of the fact that I'm confident in my abilities to stay alive as a support much better than he might be. And even though I would love to play DPS because I almost never get to, the win condition for me in this game is staying alive and keeping my team alive through that enemy Daredevil's dives. And as Psylocke, even though I was calling out what Daredevil was going to do and trying to defend my backline, it still didn't really seem to matter too much. Because this is a Rocco and because it's one of Rocket's best maps, I offer to swap with Deus because I'm a lot more comfortable on support than a lot of other people. You can see right away immediately that Daredevil starts playing aggressively. Because I know that's how he's going to play, I'm playing a lot farther back and away from my team, giving them heals, and keeping myself alive, long enough so that eventually that Daredevil ends up feeding. Now that we have the advantage, my team has an opportunity to push that advantage. But as he comes back and tries to attack me, I'm still surviving throughout all of his dives. Before, he was constantly trading himself for someone on my backline, but now already I'm trying to do my best to just waste his time. And there, as you see, I'm playing a lot more defensively and I'm predicting what the enemy Daredevil is trying to do. By simply surviving a lot longer, I'm able to help enable my team better this way. Because of the fact that I'm a alive more often, my front line and my DPS are able to do a lot more. And because the enemy team is playing so aggressively while on defense, they're making a lot of mistakes, which is leading to picks, which is helping us push the convoy.
Hey, T! Enjoy the amplifier! Armor patch here! Pay up! You're ready for action!
You're halfway there. Keep going.
Armor patch here! Pay up! Stop the goddess!
Hearing the storm ult, I had ulted more aggressively, hoping my team was going to walk into it, and unfortunately they backed away instead. So I was still trying to get value out of it by trying to attack the front line, especially knowing that the enemy team doesn't have a shield tank to stop me from shooting, as well as the Moon Knight. Unfortunately, we lost our Strange in the process.
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
Look who's here.
We are undefeatable.
Knowing my team had the advantage, I rotated up top to try and see if I could get an angle on the nest and destroy them myself as Rocket. And as I go up there, the enemy team starts ulting, and then Daredevil starts attacking me. But once again, because of the fact that I'm more confident on my abilities to survive in this round, I'm doing my best to waste his time. I also know that because of the fact that before, every time that he engaged in the first round, he was always trading. He would use all of his abilities to try and secure a kill, which also means that if he would use all of his abilities and he didn't get the kill, he might just end up dying for it every time.
I'll patch you up.
I was
Bring on the chaos. Hey, T!
Luckily, our Loki copied me just in time in order to use his ultimate to keep our team alive and survive through a lot of the enemy's burst. Even though we weren't able to secure any kills with his ultimate, we were able to buy enough time for us to heal each other back to full, and it now allows me to use my ultimate right afterwards to try and secure and keep this momentum going. The enemy team had used a lot of resources in order to fight during that first Rocket ult, and because of that, I don't want to miss this window of opportunity, and I use my ult immediately afterwards, because with the enemy resources down and them not having a shield tank, this makes the enemy team really vulnerable, and all we have to do is win one fight to cap this point. And because of that, my team was able to secure a lot of picks, which allowed us to secure the point.
You kind
You're
will
ready
not
for
stand
action.
idly by while our nation is defiled.
I'll patch you up. Your god is suffering.
I was fine, but thank you.
Once again, you see Daredevil do the same thing he's been doing all game, which is he tries to dive into the enemy, use all of his cooldowns, and try and secure a kill. Because in his mind, trading up until this point has worked very successfully, and because I know that's what he's trying to do, and I know how survivable I am on Rocket, I know that as long as I survive the dive and I help my team survive the dive, he ends up dying a lot for nothing.
Someone scratch my back. Technology.
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
You're ready for action. I unleash the Vishanti's power.
This sort of takes us into an ult domino fight back and forth in which the enemy team ults, we ult, and I try to do my best to help shut down the enemy Rocket's amplifier and get value out of mine, while also trying to keep my team alive for the enemy Daredevil's ultimate. We're kind of just trading back and forth at this point.
Feel the
As the enemy storm ults, I try to take a cheeky spot and try and heal my team from the enemy's side so they don't really see me and they can't really dive me. All I wanted to do was help my team survive the storm ult, so hopefully we can push up afterwards.
That's me. Robots. Relay deployed. It ain't cheap. You're welcome.
I was fine, but thank you.
This is gonna hurt.
My thanks,
Only 60 seconds left.
Unfortunately, the enemy Daredevil marked me, and I really messed up on my dashes, which led to me dying in this moment. But it was at this exact time that I told my team, hey, all we need to do is focus the Daredevil when he dives in, and when we get the pick on him, we push the remaining 5. Because even though the enemy Daredevil is great at securing picks, he's not great at getting out alive. This is one of those moments where you're not just trying to defeat the hero that the person is playing, but understand how the player plays and counter their play style. It's at this point my team makes adjustments and we do a lot better going forward. And there you see that as Daredevil dives in and he uses all of his cooldowns, I throw down my ultimate very quickly and aggressively because I know that he doesn't have abilities to defend himself. So even though the enemy team starts ulting, we get the pick on Daredevil before Ultron can save him, giving us an advantage. Now I know Daredevil got rezzed and he came back into the fight, but something I think people forget is that during that time which somebody is getting rezzed is they're still out of the fight. And sometimes those few seconds that you have while someone is being rezzed buys your team enough time and space in which it doesn't make it safe for the enemy team to re-engage. Because of it, Punisher is able to walk up more freely, and our Loki and Punisher can ult to help secure the objective, which might not have been possible if Daredevil was there to help defend. And as Daredevil gets rezzed, he immediately dies once again. At this moment in time, we're adjusting to his playstyle, and he's not adjusting to the fact that we are countering it. He's going to continue making the same mistakes over and over again. As we have the advantage and we're leaving one person on the convoy, the rest of us are pushing up to try and get as many staggers as we can to keep the convoy moving up safely. This luckily leads to a kill on Storm, and it also leads to a kill on the Penny. And there, even though the Storm and the Penny had died and it would have been in their best interest to fully regroup, the Daredevil once again went in too aggressively and led to his death, staggering the team even harder. Daredevil was revived and he gets a trade on our Punisher, but ultimately, because of the fact that we've continued to stagger them, a trade for the enemy team is not in their favor. And as Storm uses her ultimate and she doesn't get any value and just ends up dying for it again, we're continuing this momentum and we're holding on to it, allowing the convoy to move up freely. And there you see, as the convoy is moving up, once again, the Daredevil is pushing forward too aggressively, we're waiting for him, and we immediately counter him and shut him down, and now it's a 6v5. I knew that my ultimate was very close to being charged, and I was telling my team I'm going to ult as soon as I get it. Because of the fact that once again we had secured so many staggers, we weren't allowing them to regroup and fight as 6, and I didn't want to allow that to happen. So as my Strange goes in and ults, I immediately use my ult afterwards to follow up on it to help secure the team fight. In the same way that they staggered us, which allowed them to secure the final objective, we staggered them, which allowed us to secure the final objective. And as I hit tab, you can notice that there's one outlier on the enemy team that stands out from all the rest. He has 18 deaths, and yes, he has 16 finals, but he's ultimately putting his team at a disadvantage all the time. And because we're playing in a way trying to counter his specific playstyle, it's working out in our favor.
Ready for action.
I left the beaches of Krakoa for this.
Enemy in front of us. Don't mind me.
There, once again, this is the reason why I switched to support and why I started playing Rocket. I knew that the Daredevil was going to come in, and all I had to do was survive his dive. As he does, my team is fully prepared because they know exactly what he's going to do because it's what he's been doing all game, and he hasn't changed what he's been doing. So the moment he dives in, all 6 of us turn and focus on him. And there, even though he got rezzed, he immediately went back in and did the exact same thing again. Rez is a very valuable resource. Ultimately, it undoes a mistake. Realistically, you don't want to use Rez unless you absolutely have to. But by Daredevil diving in, trying to 1v6 while on defense and getting himself killed, wasting the Rez and diving in again, he puts his team at a massive disadvantage. And in overtime, that's a huge mistake. Because now, in this scenario, we're just going to overpower them by sheer numbers alone. I want you to notice the domino effect that happens after Daredevil dies like that. Because of the fact that it's a 6v5, the rest of the team eventually falls over. It might only be a single final hit that's required in order to win a team fight, but at the same time, a single death could be what it means that your team loses a team fight. This is the reason why that I think that deaths are more important than how many kills that you get. Final hits could be cleanup kills after a fight has already been won. And while there are certain times where dying is part of the strategy, for the most part, the more you're alive, it means the more that you're helping your team and the less you're putting them at a disadvantage. And now that we've snowballed and we've staggered, we're pushing up to secure the first objective. Knowing the enemy team was going to portal and they were going to be forced to rush through, I immediately dropped my amplifier to try and secure the kills as they come out. I don't want them coming out and trying to turtle up and giving them time to turtle up. I'm trying to immediately pick the people off who are walking out as soon as I can. This allows us to secure kills and continue to push the objective.
Vehicle reached a checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
You're welcome. I am strengthened for battle. This was Khonshu's will. This is a nice spot.
Natural anger. Time for some fireworks.
I'll patch you up.
And And there you see Daredevil continuing his pattern. For him, this playstyle of playing super aggressively has probably worked up until now. And against uncoordinated teams, it's probably super effective. Because even if he trades, as long as it's for a valuable enough target, it's probably going to work out in his favor. But once a team starts to understand and predict what he's about to do, it's very easy to shut players like this down. Because as you can see, we're adapting to him, but he's not adapting to us. Always putting my team at an advantage.
Let the devil unleash the Vishanti. Your powers are mine.
We are undefeatable!
You're ready for action. This is real
We are
firepower.
undefeatable!
You belong to me!
Feel the wrath of this is real.
Unfortunately, our Loki ended up copying our Punisher instead of me, but I don't know if it really would have mattered too much. We were still able to push the convoy really far, and as the enemy team was using enough of their ultimates, eventually they were able to kill us off with a point. Still, with us not having much time, pushing it almost to the second point is huge, and now our chances of winning by defending that first point on defense seem a lot more likely.
You're welcome.
Look who's here.
Turret's push. Good medicine.
Fireworks.
Punisher's down. Crazy.
That's me. That helps.
Don't mind me. I'm just dying. Behind us. So sneaky. I'll patch you up.
There you saw as our team had traded, but luckily we had the res. And once again, the Daredevil dives in, uses all of his resources, we chase him down, and we secure the kill. In this moment right here, it's a 6v4, so we get to play super aggressive at this corner. Here you see Penny die, and because of the fact that their teammates haven't even come back out of spawn yet, that's actually super huge and super bad for them. Because that is the latest stagger possible, and because of the fact they're forcing this Penny to solo tank, they're really giving up a lot of ability in order to try and maintain and hold space down. And without a tank, they're going to have a very difficult time pushing up towards this convoy. As the enemy Penny got res and they were able to apply a lot more pressure and they were able to get a few picks on my team, we back up to try and stabilize and get our health back to full. Because of the fact that the clock was still running out, it's okay to give up some space and try and take a better fight later. Once we were able to back up a little bit and I heard the enemy storm ulting, I used my ult to try and counter and keep my teammates alive to try and hold on to that momentum. Punisher then follows up with my ultimate to try and combine it together to see if we can't secure more kills. And just like that, because of the fact they were running solo tank Penny, they weren't really able to contest any space on the objective itself. After Punisher had ulted with my ultimate, the first kill that he got was of course on the Daredevil. The reason why solo tank Penny was working so successfully before was because of the fact that that enemy Daredevil was applying so much pressure to my backline. The moment I was able to take up support and survive longer and predict what the enemy Daredevil was doing and calling it out and shutting him down, my frontline and my DPS were able to do a lot more. So while the Daredevil was the reason why the enemy team was able to push so aggressively on the first round, he was ultimately the reason why his team lost. It wasn't the heroes that we had selected at the start, it was how we weren't adapting to what the enemy team was doing. Once we managed to communicate and work together and come up with a strategy, we figured out what our win condition was. And like I've always talked about, the game is about numbers. So once we were able to take down the Daredevil, it was much easier to just overpower the rest of the enemy team, especially since they were forcing their Penny to solo tank. Players like that Daredevil are very resource heavy. He was taking a lot of heals, a lot of res stations, and he wasn't getting value for it in the second half of the game. When you're playing, I don't want you to think about just how you can counter certain heroes. I want you to think about how you can counter certain playstyles. Always remember that you're going up against a human player. You're trying to predict what that human is going to do. And something that I've noticed is that players tend to not know how to adapt very well. They thrive in the chaos of solo queue, but they're not really prepared to what to do when the enemy team understands and adapts to their playstyle. The win condition might be enabling someone on your team, but it could also be as simple as seeing which one on the enemy team is leading in deaths and use that as the enemy's Achilles heel. Because if someone on the enemy team is making a lot of mistakes, they're going to usually continue to make a lot of mistakes. Capitalize on it, punish that player, and then use that momentum to continue to punish the rest of the enemy team. At the same time, my ability to flex to different roles and do so comfortably means that in situations like this, I know what my team needs and I know how to best help them. And while I would have loved to be able to stay on Psylocke the rest of the game, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to help my backline enough. I knew what we needed was a more survivable backline. My ability to survive, shot call, and help identify what the win condition was helped us win this game. I also hope this was a really good example at showing you that final hits aren't as important as staying alive. Getting kills is great, but you can see from this game that when you die, you put your team at a huge disadvantage. And every time you are that first person to die, you create a domino effect in which the rest of your team falls over. Be calculated in the kills that you go for. Always think to yourself as to whether or not securing that kill and going for that risky play is worth it if you might die in the process. A lot of the times when I'm in control of the objective, I'm just trying to prioritize staying alive and keeping my team alive more than I'm trying to make a risky play. The offensive team is the one that needs to take risks in order to try and to get a kill in order to try and move the objective forward. So when you have control over the objective, force the enemy team to try and make those risky plays and be prepared to counter them. Anyway, that's my video on how I went about in trying to spot the win condition for this game. I hope you found it helpful and I hope it helps you change the way that you might see the game. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and thank you for watching.